Okay. So we have looked at what happens if you have a negative exponent. Well, that becomes a fraction. So 2 to the negative 2 is 1 over 2 to the power of 2. Okay. In the same way, 3 to the power of negative 4 is just 1 over 1 divided by 3 to the power of 4, which is 81. Okay. We then looked at what happens if you've got a fraction raised to the power. Well, we have discussed that you end up applying the exponent to both the numerator and the denominator. So 1/2 to the power of 4 becomes 1 over 16, which is 1 to the power of 4, still 1. 2 to the power of 4 is 16. What happens if you do a fraction to a negative exponent? Well, we have 1 divided by the fraction. Okay, so when we've got a fraction, we end up with 1 divided by that fraction. Okay, which in the case of 1 over 8 ends up being just 8. So, but if we've got a fraction where we don't have a 1 in it, 2 over 3 to the power of 4, well, that applies to both, but if it's a negative 4, it applies to both, and we get the reciprocal. The fraction flips upside down. Okay. How do we check? Well, a reciprocal, if you've got that number and that number, you multiply them together, you always get the answer of 1. Right, we are now moving on to exponent rules and practice. So you have to be able to use the laws of exponents. So let's go through these quickly. Now you've got the sheet in front of you. Can you have that sheet in front of you, please? So just to show you, look, the beginning of this sheet is not any questions. It is the rules that you need to learn. Okay. So the first rule that you are going to learn is the addition of exponents rule. All right. So we have an x and an x. Those x's are the same base, the same number. But you've got 2 different exponents. So if you multiply, so that dot means multiply, so it's a multiply. If you multiply, what do you do to these 2 numbers? Add them together. So we're going to have 3 plus 8 makes the 11. All right? So you can see here, if it's a 2 instead of an x, it's just 2 to the power of 4 plus 2 makes the 6. You don't add those 2 bases together. Remember the base. Now the reason why this is true is because what's 2 to the power of 4? 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Well, I'm not worried about that, but 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, yeah? 2 squared is 2 times 2. If I put a multiply in the middle, it's just 6 of them being multiplied together. Okay? Along the same lines, brackets kind of make things a bit confusing, to be honest, but there are no adding or subtracting. So this is basically x times x times y times x times x times x times y times y times y times y. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 x's, x to the power of 5, and we've got 1 and another 4 y's, so we've got y to the power of 5. So those 2 different bases stay separate. Yes? Yes. But it basically becomes x to the power of 2 plus 3 times y to the power of, there's a 1 there, 1 plus 4. Okay? So that's the addition rule. Now, the next one we have, do I need to pause and let you write things down? No, you good? I don't want to go too quickly. The next one is if you're dividing, what do you think we do? Minus. And it makes sense because 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 divided by 3 times 3 times 3. Well, 3's can pair up. So this 3 divided by this 3 makes? 1. Good. 1. This 3, this one. So it becomes 3 times 3 that's left times 1 times 1 times 1. So obviously the 1's don't really matter. So we end up with just 3 times 3. Now, what people do is they just say, oh, I'm going to cancel those 3 with 3 of those and leave me with a 2. They do it like that. As long as you do appreciate things don't just disappear. 3 divided by 3 is 1, not 0. And that's really important when we do it algebraically. Okay, so when we look at a bit of algebra, so we've got x squared, y to the power of 5 divided by an x and 3 y's. Well, there's enough on top, so those 3 cancel, leaving just 2. This one cancels with 1, leaving just 1. So we're left with 1x, 2 y's. Okay, bit of cancelling out. On this one, look, how do I get it? How do I get the 2? Because it's 5 take away the 3.
Yeah, I know, but...
Yeah? So that's just what you do.
Okay. So if it was like... Nah,
No?
yeah, I understand. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So if I gave you 7 to the power of 4 divided by 7 squared.
No, yeah, sure, it'll be 7 too.
7 to the power of 4 minus 2 is 7 to the power of 2. What if I gave you 3 to the power of 6 divided by 2 to the power of 4? You would tell me the answer is?
1, 2.
5.
Caught you.
3.
What did I say?
1. 1.
The numbers are the same. These
I'll just stay the same.
stays the same, yeah.
3.
These rules only work when the base is the same number. Because if it was here, it would be a 3 divided by 2, and that's not 1, right? So it doesn't cancel out.
So we just when there's a question like that, we
Some other ones that you've seen before. Anything to the power of 0 is 1.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a relationship.
Yep, kind of. This one, I've skipped this one just a moment, I'll come back to it. But this one you've done before. If there's a power outside the brackets, it gets applied to both of the things. We just did that with the fraction one. But it also applies to multiplying. So you've got some examples. Everyone comes with examples for you to go through. This one here, the power rule. This is because x cubed to the power of 2 would be x cubed times another x cubed, because it's times by itself. And what do you do when you've got two bases the same and two powers? That becomes x to the power of 3 plus 3, which is also x to the power of 3 times 2, which is just take those two numbers and times them together. Okay? So like I say, this sheet has all the rules. We've done negative exponents as well. Talked about that one, you know that one. Talking here, look, if you've got x over y, negative becomes the reciprocal, but to the power of n. Lots of examples for you there. So these, again, aren't questions, they're examples of what it should look like. So you've got lots of examples on the sheet to follow. All right. And then it does say, remember, an exponent applies to only the factor it's directly next to, unless there are parentheses. Okay, so this is what we've talked about on a calculator, which is -3 to the power of 2 will give you the answer 9. But if you put -3 to the power of 2 in your calculator, it will do the 3 to the power of 2 first and then put the negative on. Okay? All right. So you've got all of those examples and now loads of questions. But you do have the answers. So obviously the answers are not what matters, it's how you get to them. So in your notebook, in your jotter, work them out, show you're working and show that you can get to the correct answer.